Hello from your friends at Jamf and welcome to our presentation. Yo, where'd the buttons go? Our product development team is a global organization with primary locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin in the USA, the city of Emmen in the Netherlands, and Katowice, Poland. I'm pausing here for just a brief moment for you to review our forward-looking statement. It will also be available for a detailed review if you'd like under Resources. I'm Deb Morris, Manager of the User Experience Design Team at Jamf, and I'm joined today by Senior User Experience Researcher Adam Schwartz. I'm also pleased to introduce you to two senior software engineers from our office in Katowice, Poland, Kuba Szczupaczynski and Rafał Ranowicz. The user experience team and engineering teams have all been working over the past 1.5 years to lay the groundwork so that we can more rapidly update our products and respond to change requests that we receive from you. Our presentation today is actually a story about you and us and how we made Jamf Pro better because of the passion and care you have about this product. We want you to see how your feedback informed our choices, learn about the process we use to make those changes, learn how we use research conducted with you to inform our decisions, and see where we are headed with the Jamf Pro user interface. You may be wondering, why did we make the change to the buttons? Why that and not some other, perhaps more pressing updates? One of the big reasons we are making these changes is due to the technology used in Jamf Pro's front-end UI. The framework we use to build the front end of Jamf Pro is called AngularJS, and that technology is no longer getting updated. We knew we needed to improve the Pro UI, and this technology shift made that even more urgent for us. We thought, why not use that as an opportunity to rethink our UI? To incorporate new trends into our design, basing those design decisions on information that we gather via feedback from you, our users, so that we keep your needs and goals top of mind while we update our designs. You've probably run into this issue within Jamf Pro. The button is on the bottom right. Oh no, it's actually here on the top. Nope, it's there on top of that grid and it's on the bottom left. Let's be honest. We have a consistency problem when it comes to navigating the content within Jamf Pro. When this project kicked off, we took an inventory of our pages and identified where we could make improvements from a design perspective. Button placement and visibility was a clear need for us to address. Here's another example. In 10.18, the behavior of the Done button was different depending on what page you were on. Sometimes you would go back to the previous page. Sometimes you would go all the way back to a general page like Settings. Our longer-term goal is to address these inconsistencies and build a more predictable user experience. From a broader perspective, we knew that we needed to create common definitions for elements you interact with on the page: radio buttons, checkboxes, buttons, input fields, and so on. To meet the needs of our diverse user audience, we needed to know that what we deliver to you meets accessibility guidelines, uses better color contrast, acts consistently wherever it's used in the product, and looks the same not only in Jamf Pro, but in our other products too. And we need to fix those little annoying things, like how the sidebar navigation disappears when you're in Settings, but comes back when you're on computers, devices, or users. We know from how other companies have rolled out updates that it's important for us to deliver changes in small increments versus one big change. Here's an old example about this. eBay originally had a yellow background on its pages. When they updated it to use a white background, their users had an uproar. So they rolled it back to its original yellow color, and then over a period of months, they released updates that gradually changed the color to white. No one noticed the gradual change. In that same vein, we want to roll out updates to Jamf Pro that allow you to gradually adjust to change versus making huge changes all at once. It's easier for us to deliver smaller increments of change, and it's easier for you, our users, to adjust to small changes. Throughout this process, it's our intention and goal to deliver value to you with each change, and to ensure that your workflow becomes easier and more fluid over time. To get started on our project to update Jamf Pro's user experience, we asked our user research team to discover the needs and goals of our users pertaining to overall navigation within Jamf Pro. Dr. Adam Schwartz from our user research team is going to describe how we engaged users throughout that research process.
User experience researchers strive to learn about who our users are, what they think, and what they do. We use a mix of psychology, anthropology, engineering, design, and statistics to learn and understand folk and how they interact with our products. We can assist in several stages of a gated development process, helping to discover users' needs, align internal teams, validate prototypes through usability testing, and measure satisfaction after a product is released. Some of our most common tools are surveys and one-on-one user sessions. We send out questionnaires, usually electronically, to collect users' opinions. During user sessions, we sit down with folk and ask them about products, as well as observe them using the technologies. User sessions allow us a much greater in-depth look at how customers behave and feel. At Jamf, we find folk to participate in our studies in several ways. We have pop-ups in Jamf Nation and Pro, offering folk the chance to take a survey. We also have a user feedback pool where we send surveys and opportunities to folk to meet with us for one-on-one user sessions. For this product, we entered the discovery phase wanting to learn what folk thought of Jamf Pro's navigation. We received 73 survey responses and conducted 9 one-on-one user sessions. From these, we learned that 60% of respondents claimed that Jamf Pro navigation needed improvement. Respondents rated the overall consistency and findability of relevant items in Jamf Pro UI as acceptable. The main areas that needed improvements, according to respondents, were all settings, side menus, and buttons. In additional comments, a significant number of respondents listed further issues with mobile navigation, dashboard usability, and color contrast as seen here in these images. Button actions were not consistent. For example, some pages had both done and save buttons where you needed to press save before done or all your work was lost. Some of the suggestions respondents had for improving Jamf Pro navigation included adding the ability to go back in the UI, updating the color contrast and visibility of items, modifying the amount of white space, and reorganizing some of the items in the side menu and all settings areas to be personalized to their individual needs. The development team took this feedback and made a new version of the Jamf Pro UI. We conducted 24 one-on-one user sessions to learn what folks thought about it. For these sessions, we asked folks to do some common tasks that they would normally do in the scope of their work while we observed them. Folks changed their passwords, found certain settings, configured profiles, and checked their instance version number. From this, we learned that folks generally appreciated our redesign, especially with the new breadcrumbs, back buttons, and layout. Folks could understand the new icons. Now I'd like to hand things back to Deb to talk about what happened next.
Thanks for that overview, Adam. Armed with that information from our user research team, we worked with our engineering team to create this new button style, which met our longer-term vision of having the buttons actually up on top of the page, where space is more limited. But In our small increments delivery model, we started by introducing the new buttons in the current position at the bottom of the page. We were really proud of our work. And then the feedback started coming in from our users. And wow, did you give us feedback? And it was not positive. The initial post came through my email using our feedback request process, and the UX design team started working right away to better understand the issue and come up with alternative solutions. In the interim, we let users know that we had a grand plan in mind, and you rightfully let us know that this intermediate deliverable was a step backwards, not forwards. And we listened. We came up with alternatives that addressed the request to put words back on the buttons, and then we leaned on our user researchers to help us get quick and reliable input from you, our users, on the new design options for buttons. Adam, take it away.
Once the design team had created some options, we tested them with users. Casting our net wider than previously, we received 245 survey responses about our new designs. We learned that similar to the Jamf Nation feedback, the majority of respondents didn't like the redesign of the buttons. Of the new options we came up with, they preferred top placement and buttons with clean icons and labels. Here are two of the options, with the buttons on the top versus the bottom of the page. The top was the winner, as it allows for improved button visibility, efficient access, and it doesn't require scrolling to do an action. It's also more intuitive and consistent with other apps and software that you use, which fulfills the matching heuristics. As for the buttons themselves, there was a clear winner. 43% of folk preferred the button design that had icons, labels, and no framing boxes. The user experience research team recommended to the design and engineering teams that the new design should have buttons in that style and be at the top of the page. And now I'll pass the mic to our engineering colleagues.
Hi, my name is Rafał, and I am a front-end engineer here at Jamf. Together with my coworker Kuba, we would like to shed some light on how the development process of such a visual change looks like from a technical perspective. Let's start from when both the UX research and UX team approach us and share customer research findings and final design recommendations. We begin a brief high-level discussion on the project. At some point, it becomes clear that restyling buttons is one thing, but moving them to the top of the page should be considered as a separate effort due to how Jamf Pro UI is built and what technologies are used. Kuba?
Thank you, Rafał. Hello, my name is Kuba. I'm a front-end developer at Jamf. After the mockups presentation, we proceed to start refining the project. We discuss the project scope, what we want to achieve, and the technical implications. Jamf Pro is a diverse project built in diverse technologies. Within those technologies, different implementations of the page buttons could have been created. Additionally, when trying to really understand what we are taking on, we also identify outliers and examples of features that do not fall into the generic workflow, yet are a part of the project scope. It is an integral part of every horizontal change we introduce to the product's web interface. The three most dominant technologies that build the web interface of Jamf Pro are Java Server Pages, AngularJS, and as of late, Angular. The front-end framework we use to build the new generation of user experience, as new guidelines are created and interface elements designed in accordance with them, we put an equal amount of attention to make transitions between technologies seamless for our users. That applies both to visuals and even features through a process called downgrading. Over the past 2 years, we've worked very hard to lay the foundation for the product and internal Jamf Pro teams to start supporting Angular and building on top of it. Our goal is to greatly enhance the user experience over the long run and resolve some of the areas we weren't satisfied with in the current technology stack. The three biggest gains, amongst many other improvements, are performance, security, and accessibility. The tools we are creating, facing Jamf Pro teams, are also reimagined to provide a much smoother developer experience. As we continue building out the foundation, new features developed by Jamf Pro teams using a new generation of components can be seen across more areas of the system. The new startup process, the landing page of API documentation are examples of a widespread effort to modernize the web interface. All of this combined will take Jamf Pro user experience where it could not have been before. Take it away, Rafał.
Thank you, Kuba. After the initial refinement is behind us, now it's time to break entire project into smaller chunks of work so developers can knock problems out one by one. Here we use a divide and conquer algorithm. The idea behind this is to end up with the smallest possible problems to solve so they become nearly atomic. By doing so, it's easier to get an overview of the whole project and manage it, talk about estimations, and prioritize specific chunks of work. After the process of refinement is finished, we end up with a list of tasks. Here you can find a simplified list of them. Going from the top, we want to use tooltips in the new solution, and we can do it right away, since the tooltip component already exists. That's great. As a next step, we would like a tooltip component to be more flexible by enhancing this feature with ability to provide tooltips default values. We do it in a form of a directive, which can be used together with the tooltip itself. After that, we concentrate our efforts on creating a new component, the navigation button. You may be wondering, why do we want a new component since there are already buttons created inside the application? Why do not reuse them and just apply new features if needed? Well, the answer is pretty simple. In general, it's easier to create, work with, and also maintain smaller, dedicated components than having a big one. You can think of it like a multi-tool, which can do everything for you. Does it mean it does everything in the best way? Not necessarily. After a new component is created, we can move further and restyle all remaining navigation buttons inside the app. But wait, we already have the new navigation button created, right? Well, it's true. Although we have to keep in mind that it has been created with use of a newest technology available in our project, Angular. And still, big part of the system is based on JSP. So we have to restyle this particular implementation. At the very end, we want to make sure we can use newly created navigation button component inside our application. This process is called downgrading, and by doing so, our component can be used in AngularJS application. All the tools needed for that are delivered with Angular to ease the transition from old to new technology. Kuba?
Thank you, Rafał. Individual reusable components are the building blocks for all of the new UI. Those usually fall into one of two categories: very generic with multiple uses, defined outright, or discovered as needed by a more complex UI element, but then made reusable. Their looks and behaviors come defined by our UX team and usually do not change much during the whole process. Displayed is a top-level view of our implementation process, highlighting every phase of adding a new item to our component library. Whenever the solution does not pass verification at either of those stages, it gets put back into the hands of the developer for them to improve upon it. Take it away, Rafał.
Thank you. After all smaller chunks of work are delivered, now it's time to test the whole solution. Since it's a horizontal change, which basically touches on the entire application, it requires a lot of effort in order to be tested properly. We start with testing different user workflows, like editing, saving, moving back and forth between different pages. All implementations for all used technologies have to be checked, which means Angular, AngularJS, and Java Server pages. We test against all supported browsers, devices, and platforms. Finally, we verify that different languages versions of the app also look and behave correctly. Kuba?
Thank you. We would also like to highlight another example of component architecture with a much more complex element. Pictured is the brand new table dropdown, which now we are making an integral part of the new table element in Jamf Pro. Even though the settings pane is quite complex and controls different properties of table columns, it can be broken down into at least 5 individual components: a dropdown, a checkbox, a button, tooltip, and an icon. Such granular components come with many advantages. The biggest advantage from the user's perspective is consistency. Whenever a change is introduced to a component, that very change is reflected in every usage of said component. There is no process involved with going through each instance and manually verifying whether the change has occurred. To reiterate upon the new table experience we're introducing to Jamf Pro, you will be able to first interact with it yourself on the history view of Engage settings starting in release 10.25. Taking the opportunity on behalf of all of the team, I would like to thank you for all of the engagement and feedback you've provided. We hope to continue building the future of Jamf Pro web interface together with you. Take it away, Deb.
Thanks, Kuba and Rafal, for that insight into the intricacies of our development process. As you can see, we're making progress on delivering small changes to you that evolve the user experience for Jamf Pro. From 10.19 to 10.21 to the improved button design that we recently released in 10.23, we are moving our design forward so that we can make better use of the available screen real estate, allowing you to see more page-level content at a time. And we're baking in accessibility and consistency with these incremental updates. We happily released the updated button design in 10.23 and got some great feedback from our Jamf Nation users on this improvement. It's so important to include you in our process. We're better together when we engage users in our product research and design activities. We were able to move forward with our long-term vision for the product, while also ensuring that you would not lose those precious moments in your day trying to figure out what those little icons represent. So words and images for the win. We're building the UI components like Lego blocks, allowing us to reuse components across the pages, which builds consistency of behavior, appearance, and accessibility throughout the product. From a higher perspective, we're also looking at making better use of the space on the page so that you have more room to show relevant content. As we continue to make updates and improvements to the navigation of Jamf Pro, while also updating the technology we use to build that UI, we will continue to reach out to you, our users, to help us understand your needs and goals as they pertain to Jamf Pro. Here's a sneak peek at the future sidebar navigation that we are currently exploring for Jamf Pro. We really wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your input and feedback. Our partnership with you in this process helps us make better products that in turn make it easier and more enjoyable for you to use them. If you haven't done so already, please add your name to our user research contact list. We have a variety of research activities happening every day, and your involvement is crucial for our success. We look forward to more lively discussions on Jamf Nation, and we hope that we see or hear you in future research sessions. Thank you from your engineering and user experience friends at Jamf.